The Templin Institute most commonly investigates the realms of the geopolitical, but in our ongoing look into the rise of Boba Fett as a crime lord on Tatooine comes the necessity to make a small detour towards the spiritual and psychological. Since emerging from the Sarlacc pit and his supposed death, Boba Fett has been plagued by dreams and visions, and it's those that I'd like to discuss today. To start though, 2 warnings. The first is that the Templin Institute Department of Psychology is not accredited with any institution in this reality. The second is that we'll be analyzing these dreams and visions somewhat thoroughly. This is not a video you should watch if you'd like to analyze these elements for yourself first and haven't yet. Alright, so let's get into it. Of particular interest to me is an incident in which Boba Fett ingested a hallucinogenic lizard and then wandered into the desert in search of a tree. And let's be honest, who among us hasn't done that at least once? But the way he perceives the world in this altered state, I believe reflects a kind of inner struggle occurring within Boba Fett's consciousness. There's 3 major elements at play here. The dune sea of Tatooine, a lone tree, and eyes glittering in the darkness. Let's start with the dune sea, and this one should be pretty straightforward. Within Boba Fett's vision, it's been transformed into the literal oceans of Kamino, the planet where both Boba Fett and the legion of clones engineered from his father were first created. This to me represents Boba Fett's past and the strong connection he has with his father. This idea is reinforced by subsequent visions of a young Boba watching his father depart Kamino, and then gazing into his father's empty helmet after his death in the arena on Geonosis. It should be noted that both visions strongly feature Boba's own reflection within something associated with his father. I take this as a representation of Boba Fett's immensely strong desire to live up to his father's legacy, becoming the kind of man that Jango was. Next we have that second element, the lone tree in the deserts of Tatooine. Now in many cultures, trees are associated with life, one's personal journey, and their family lineage. This seems to be a pretty good foundation to start from. But where other people might feel comforted or reassured by what this tree represents, Boba Fett instead feels strangled by it, the limbs wrapping around him and choking the life out of him, to the extent where he associates it with the Sarlacc pit. This would seem to contradict that first element. Where despite the strong desire Boba Fett has to become like Jango Fett, he also feels strangled or constrained by this path he has chosen for himself. Now the last element, those eyes in the darkness, might be the hardest to interpret. It seems that within the real world, a group of Jawas just happened by and started wondering what was going on with this strange man flailing around in the darkness. But again, the way Boba Fett interprets this in his altered mind does tell us something. To him, they're not Jawas, they have no bodies, they're instead just floating eyes, appearing throughout that tree. This might be a bit of a reach, but I think these possibly represent the clones. Tens of millions of brothers to whom Boba has no real connection, family or otherwise. So taken all together, what do these elements mean? Well, I think Boba Fett has spent his entire life trying to become a copy of his father. But now he's lived far longer than Jango Fett ever did, and is faced with his own mortality and questions of legacy. These are questions that Jango had only started to answer for himself. And while Boba has modeled so much of his life on that of his father's, here he can find no help or guidance. I think Boba Fett realized that had he died within the Sarlacc pit, he would have perished as just another clone, no different from the tens of millions that came before. I think he has come to realize that while it might seem like a kind of contradiction, in order to truly become like his father and embrace that legacy, he must instead become his own man, not just another clone or even the son of Jango Fett, but rather Boba Fett, and make that name truly mean something. But that, of course, is just my opinion, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Do you have a different interpretation of what Boba's visions mean? Was I just reading too much into everything? Let me know in the comments below, and until next time, this has been a Templin Dispatch.